Hello everyone, my name is Russ Sorrells. I am the founder of Capital Sales Monthly. Right now we're going to talk about surviving an economic downturn. Because if you're a salesperson and you sell capital equipment, when the economy turns south, the first thing that happens is that budgets dry up. And when budgets dry up, that means that you've got nothing to sell. So the salespeople that survive must have a strategy for surviving an economic downturn, and that's what we're going to talk about here. I've got 5 points that I want to make. I have personally been through 2 economic downturns. We had the internet bubble burst of 99, 2000 time frame that sent us into a recession, and then we had the economic meltdown of 2008, 2009. So I have personally been through and survived and ultimately thrived through a couple of economic downturns. So I want to share some of the strategies that I applied during those economic downturns to ensure that when it was all said and done, I had myself positioned to succeed for the long term, because that's ultimately what you want to do. The time to prepare for an economic downturn is not when you're in an economic downturn. The time to prepare for an economic downturn is now. It is now, right? So the time to plant a tree is yesterday, whatever the Chinese proverb is. But ultimately, I want to prepare you. I want to help you prepare, and that's what Capital Sales Monthly is about: is helping others prepare through the lessons that have been learned along the way. So the number one thing that I did that others didn't do is I showed up. I showed up in the market. That is absolutely critical to your long-term success, because what happens is when no one's buying, salespeople tend to hunker down. They tend to not leave their desk. They tend to be tepid in making phone calls, tepid in sending emails, tepid in showing up in the market. Ultimately, I loved the fact that it was an economic downturn because I was the only person showing up. And when you show up with your customers, whether they need something or not, you show up, they will reward you whenever the economy comes back, because they remember that you were there with them when times weren't so good, as well as when times were good. So number one thing that you do when the economy turns south is you show up when everybody else is not showing up, which leads me to number 2. In order to show up, you want to add value. Adding value is critical. So I said just show up. Well, show up and add value. When you show up and add value, you have really differentiated yourself from your peers, because your peers are going to show up and be like, "Hey, you got anything? You got anything that I can sell you? Just wanted to check in with you, see if you needed anything. What can we sell you," right? I mean, that's how the market often shows up. That's how our competitors show up on a regular basis. That's not how I want you to show up. First, I want you to show up. Then I want you to add value once you show up. So when you get there, what are you going to provide? Maybe if it's just bringing the joy, bringing some enthusiasm, helping your customer have a better day. I mean, that is the ultimate way to demonstrate value for your customers, because during economic times, we're all struggling. Your customer is surviving. So just showing up and taking their time and wasting their time is not helpful to them. But if you show up and you add value, they will absolutely remember you when the economy turns around. And that is how you survive and thrive. Number 3, mindset. What is your mindset? You have to expect to succeed. You have to expect to win, because it's tough, right? When nobody's buying, everyone's struggling, your customers are struggling, your competitors are struggling, your peers are struggling, your colleagues are struggling. It is difficult to maintain a positive mindset, but you have to expect to win for the long term, right? It's not a short game. When it's an economic downturn, it is literally, it is blocking and tackling. It's back to the basics. It is setting yourself up. It's putting yourself in a position to succeed when times get better, because they will get better. They always do. It's a cycle. That's why I'm talking about this now. Right now, we have been in an amazing stretch of successful economy. Things have thrived. The capital equipment business has just exploded as more companies are automating and implementing technology to help improve their efficiencies and reduce their labor costs. So we have just benefited tremendously from an incredible economy. That's going to change. It always does. I'm not trying to forecast economic doom, but at the end of the day, it goes up, it goes down. It goes up, it goes down. It is a cycle. So you've got to prepare. And when you're in it, you have to have a mindset of knowing that eventually it is going to change. So if you're showing up, if you're adding value, and you've got the right mindset, you are going to be there. When times turn, you're going to be the first person they call. I promise you. I know. I experienced it. And right after the downturns, on both occasions, my business exploded, because I continued to show up, add value, and I had a positive mindset, and I brought the joy every time I showed up in my customers. Next, network. It's really important that you network. There are people in your industry that are not competitors, that maybe if you sell laser markers, maybe you have a company that sells presses, sells vision cameras, that sells different technology that is parallel to yours, that gets used on the same equipment or at the same manufacturing companies. Start to collaborate with them. Build that network, but build it now. Don't just build it when you need something. Build it now so that you've got them to call on when the times get tough. You guys can get together on a regular basis and say, hey, what have you heard? What's going on out there? That was super helpful for me personally, having a strong network of people that trusted each other, that knew that if something happened in the market, that we were going to share that with everyone so that everyone had an opportunity to potentially leverage that and win and succeed long term. So really important to focus on that network, help to bring value to the network so that when there is something out there, they alert you and you can be a part of it. Number 5, train and teach. Something else that differentiated me in the market is that when I showed up to my customers, I trained them on something. I would do lunch and learns. So my particular expertise was pressure decay, mass flow, helium mass spec, leak detection. So I would show up and I would teach them about pressure decay. I would teach them the fundamentals of mass flow. I would teach them the fundamentals of leak testing. I would do something to add value and train them, to give them a skill, to impart knowledge on them, to help them grow. Because ultimately, again, they're struggling. They want to make sure that they're doing things that can help them improve so that they can stay employed because they bring value to their businesses. Another thing that I did goals training. So I started a goals training course, and so I would go to the customer, and again, we do a lunch and learn, and I just teach them how to set goals. I did that for several customers and taught their engineering team how to set goals. So these are the 5. Number 1 is show up. Number 2 was add value. Number 3 was have the right mindset. Number 4, make sure you are networking with people. Number 5 is ultimately be creative. Be creative in how you can add value to your customers. One way that I was creative is I did training. I showed up and I did training. So those are 5 ideas, 5 things that you need to start working on now to prepare yourself for an impending economic downturn. Again, not trying to project or doom and gloom here, but ultimately there is going to be a retraction. And your ability to implement these 5 strategies will determine if you survive the ultimate economic downturn. If you like this content, if you want more of this type of content, please let me know in the comments below. Also, we'd love to have you join us for our Capital Sales Monthly group. This is a group where we get together on a Zoom call once per month, and we talk about the challenges that we're facing in the capital equipment business. I train on specific topics with regards to selling capital equipment, and then we also vet current opportunities. So we talk about applications that those in the peer group have, and we share that information, not from a We don't say, hey, this is a specific customer. That is all confidential. But we talk about the application, we talk about the challenges, and then we put strategies together for the person to apply to ultimately win and succeed, get them in a better spot to win that business, get a purchase order for their company. So that's Capital Sales Monthly. You can go to ownyourcategory.com/Capital Sales Monthly and learn all about that program. Thanks so much. Again, Russ Sorrells. Have an awesome day.